Morning, sunshine.
Good morning, sexy.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay.
That was quite the introduction.
Well, I like to call myself that, so I might as well call somebody else.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, good morning, guys. So last night I came into the United States, into Buffalo. We're actually not far from Buffalo right now, and yeah, we ended up staying at this manor. It's a place called Greystone. Has quite the history. I guess I'll just put like the full length of all the information that we got from the owner, Heather, yesterday when we first got here, because she's awesome and she provided so much information, so many crazy stories that I probably won't even manage to put it all into the main channel video. There'll probably be bits and pieces over there, but I guess this is kind of like a sneak preview as to what you guys are about to see from this place, because it was pretty wild last night, so I'm pretty excited to show you guys. But yeah, we're gonna get on the road and head to our second location, but yeah, here is that in the meanwhile.
Yeah, so just to start, the house goes back to 1833. It was owned by the Newcomb family. They were fruit farmers. They're the ones who owned the property. They were coopers. They had a big shop on the property where they built carriages. So they also had a blacksmith shop. And out back, the buildings are no longer there, but there were a whole bunch of buildings out there. Big carriage house, big blacksmith shop, two big huge barns. And there were like workmen's quarters and things like that. So a whole bunch of buildings out back. There's foundations left out there now. I can walk you back there later.
Sure.
So when we go through the tour, I'll show you where all that is too. So you can sort of check things out. Newcombs are here from 1833 till about 1860. The two sons, the man who owned the property, so the Newcombs, the two sons ended up inheriting the property, and there was sort of a fight between the two of them. The one son ended up with everything, the house and all the land. The other son only ended up with 2 acres of apple orchards on the property. So this property is actually really, really big. It goes quite a while into the next county and then over this way originally. So it was actually a lot of land to have that fight over, the two of them. And then, so going into 1860, the house changed hands and was sold to the Chapin family. They lived next door. They ended up moving in. They were only here for about 4 years. Then they sold it to the Root family. And the road is called Root Road, the road that this house sits on, named after the Root family. And they used to live on the corner. They were a big family that were there originally on Ridge and Root Road, which is at the end of the street here. That's why the street is called Root Road. Their great-grandfather up here on the wall is Erastus Root. He's like the patriarch of the family. Big politician, big political figure. Even locally, the Roots were all involved in politics as well. And so his grandson ended up buying the property, and he used it as a big horse farm. He turned it into like a racing farm. He raised race horses here. He had a big quarter-mile track on the property next to the house where he would race horses. People would come from all around to watch the races too. So it wasn't just a private track. It was people would actually come watch the races. And he was raising ponies, race horses. At the same time, Curtis owned this house. He owned a big plantation down in Virginia, and where he also had a racetrack and horse facility. These people were also involved in the Underground Railroad. Erastus Root was a politician. He was really good friends with Thomas Jefferson. He was a governor in New York for like 35 years. He was a brigadier general. He was Secretary of War for a while. So he was really heavily involved in politics, and he was a big abolitionist, so he was always trying to fight for anti-slavery laws, trying to pass those in New York State way back in the 1820s, long before the Civil War.
Right.
So they were all part of the Underground Railroad as well. So this house was Underground Railroad stop too. There's some areas where the stairs move in the back, they're not attached to the floor. Other weird things, there's like a hatch in the back room that opens up where you could sort of crawl in and get into the house. So there's some other weird things. And the Roots were also raising racehorses down in Virginia in their plantation, and then sneaking with the racehorses. They're bringing people up on the real railroad cars with the ponies as groomsmen and jockeys and things like that. So they're sort of shoveling people up from their farm down in Virginia up here to this farm, because as soon as you get here to where our house is, we're considered an Erie Canal house. We're on the canal. You can see the canal from here. It's where that little bridge is. I don't know if you guys came over that bridge there. So it's considered an Erie Canal house. There's also railroad tracks. So the trains would actually come right up here. And if you drive up this way about 10 minutes, you hit Lake Ontario. So they would come right up here. be sort of disappear off the trains helping with the ponies, and all of a sudden they would sort of be gone, the people helping them, and they would just go up the road here and cross the lake and go into Canada. So there's that as well. And Curtis Root, though, the man who owned the house, the racehorses, he did pass in the house as well. He was crushed accidentally by one of his racehorses, taking him into town to get supplies for the track. It was really icy, snowy. He was walking past the railroad tracks. Train came by, spooked the horse. The horse was sliding in the snow. He was trying to steady him. Horse spun around, landed on him, and he was crushed by him.
Ouch.
And he got on the horse, though, thought he was just bruised, made it back to the house, told his wife that he was fine, don't call a doctor. He thought he was just, like I said, bruised. Got into bed in what we call the green room, which is the room right above us. And he ended up passing about 2 weeks later in that room. Probably internal bleeding.
Oh, okay.
Because he thought he was getting better, but probably whatever was going on, you know, back then too. This is 1860, so, or sorry, 1889, so they weren't really, there was no modern medicine really back then.
Yeah.
So also his wife, Melissa Root, died in that same room in 1901, and she had pneumonia, so she had a lot of breathing issues. She was sick for a while. She passed in that room. Going into a few years earlier, before Curtis died, about 10 years earlier, Melissa's father, Daniel Stoll, also died in this house as well. Of complications, it was like heart and breathing as well. So lots of breathing, lots of pressure in your chest. That's one of the things people complain about here that they experience.
Okay.
You know, so a lot of tightness in your chest.
Is that
weird
like
breathing.
anywhere in the house or just in a specific room?
Certain specific rooms, mostly upstairs, but it sort of happens everywhere. In the basement you get it a lot, on the stairs you get it a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'll sort of point those areas out too. So the Roots are here for quite a while. They were here after 1901, after Melissa died. Their youngest daughter, Flora, took over the whole business. So she ran everything. She ran the racetrack down in Virginia. They also owned a big oyster farm down in Harvey's Wharf, Virginia. So the Roots were part of that business as well. But she ended up taking everything over, which is unusual for back in the day because she was a woman. This is back in 1889 when Curtis died, and then when her mom passed away, she took everything over and ran everything. And then she sold the house in 1923 to the Kelkenberg family. And there's pictures of them over here. So if you have a look at them. These people actually came here for a seance about maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. And they brought a lot of their photos, and it was really nice to meet them.
Yeah.
It was great to have them tell us their experiences, what it was like when they would come here to visit their aunt who bought the house. So their grandparents, this is Henry and Minnie Kelkenberg, they bought the house in 1923 from the Roots. They're actually standing in front of the house in this picture, and they were dairy farmers. So they're very, very, very different. The Roots were very wealthy. They were politicians. They had racehorses. They were all about money and show, and they would have a lot of events here and public events and things. So it mattered how the house looked.
Right.
The house looked like it looks now. Everything in here is original, all the woodwork. Everything from the medallions in the ceiling, all this stuff was all left here from even the Newcombs being here. So it was all original. They moved in. They were blue-collar workers, hard workers. They were dairy farmers. They were real farmers, too, so they had crops and everything they put in. So very, very, very different. They let the racetrack grow over. They brought their cows in. So very, very different type of people. They moved in with their daughter, Mina. This is her wedding photo. She was 18 when she got married to her husband. Oops, I'm sorry. Her husband, Dorson, right there. So these two stayed in the house. So when they got married, they ended up living here. They were in the gold room. So that was their room. That's where they stayed. They ended up moving into the green room, where Curtis had passed and Melissa. This is Richard Kelkenberg. This is his father. He may have passed in the house too. We were trying to figure that out, but we know that he was around as well. These pictures were left in the house after the Kelkenbergs left and were found by the owners previous to us. They found them in a bunch of newspaper and stuff like that. And it shows these people, like this man is a young man in this photo right here. That's him as well. So this goes back to the 1880s.
Okay.
This is not a picture of this house, but this is where they lived before they bought this house.
Okay.
But it's just sort of interesting. And then these pictures are going back into the 1950s, and this shows the barns out back. So this is what used to be in the backyard here. I've got another picture too somewhere, but it's sort of nice to get a visual of what it used to look like out there. They died in 1949 and 1951, I believe it was, and with heart issues also in that green room. Both of these guys died in the house. They were waked in the front window here. This is where they used to put the coffins, in this bay window here. And then Mina ended up inheriting the house when the parents passed away. Dorson, her husband, was not a he was not a farmer at all. He worked for General Motors. So he worked for a company that did like fan blades, radiator. He would spray like asbestos on radiator belts and things like that. He ended up getting mesothelioma, getting a horrible lung illness.
I wonder why.
When he was younger, yeah, right. So he was pretty young when he started getting sick with this. So he was probably 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
And he was bedridden for years in what we called the gold room. So he was there for a long, long time. Relatives who came for that seance and came to visit us, bringing us all these pictures, said they remember even being really little kids having to sit with him and visit him when he was upstairs in that room. And so he was sick for years in bed. At the end of his life, he couldn't do the stairs anymore, couldn't walk around.
Yeah.
They put his bed into the dining room, and that's where he ended up passing away.
Oh, okay.
It was in the dining room. But he was only, I believe he was 56 or so when he passed, and that was in 1962. Yeah, so then it just was left to Mina. She inherited the house. She was here by herself. They never had children, never had kids. So there was no one really to help her. She did have a farmhand working here with her. His name was Jay Crowley, and he was here for a long, long time. He was here when the parents were here. He was an older man. He was also living out in the barn, so he did not live in the house. And we were just told recently that he did die in the basement here. That he fell down the stairs, which explains a lot of the activity in the basement. He was a heavy drinker. He was always getting into trouble with the law. He was always having to be bailed out of jail, brought back to the house because he was always getting into trouble. So he was having all kinds of issues. And then we were told by the neighbors, whose father's now in his 90s and who was good friends with these guys back in the day, that he remembered all that happening.
Right.
That was an issue here. So, but it was definitely a fall. And the owners before us had found booze bottles hidden everywhere in the house. They were just taking garbage cans full of like vodka bottles from everywhere. They were hidden under the floorboards, hidden just everywhere. He had them stashed all over the house and all over the place. So, yeah, quite a bit. No, you're staying in. No, because it's gonna no, because we gotta find Eric anyway. So
I think he's upstairs.
The fluffy one.
The little knotted fluffy
the gold
guy.
one. No, there's like a gold one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't go out once it gets dark because we have coyotes up.
Oh, okay.
And
Makes
owls
sense.
and
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah, they'll get
fun
him.
things.
They'll get him real
That will
quick.
fly away with
Yeah.
these guys. He knows better. So yeah, going into Mina being here. So then she was here for quite a while by herself, but after her husband died, she started having issues with glaucoma. She lost her vision. She was blind for about 30 years, and she lived here. It got so bad, her vision got so bad that she couldn't find her way around the house, and she only ended up being in this room here. She closed all the pocket doors, and she would use the kitchen, which is through there, and this little room here where we have just like a little TV room. She put her bed in there, and that was it, because she couldn't find her way around the house anymore. So she was definitely sort of in these rooms. And then she was here for quite a while, until, she was in her 90s when she passed. But she was here for quite a while by herself, and then in the 1980s, neighbors came to check on her because they had no idea she was here by herself. They thought the house was abandoned because there's no lights on, no electric upstairs. She didn't need to have them on because she was blind. So people always, the house was always dark, had no idea someone was living here, and everything was overgrown outside because the guy who was supposed to be doing all the work in the house had passed, away as well. So they came and called help in for her, and they brought in adult protective services for her because of the way she was living. Because she was starting to get dementia, she's having a little bit of a hard time. But there were missing windows, there's all kinds of issues going on. The upstairs was sort of unusable. It was in really, really rough shape. There were holes in the ceiling and things like that. She had raccoons living in the house. She had lots of cats living in here. She couldn't tell the difference. Like the nurses would come in the morning, take care of her, and she'd be laying in bed, and there'd be a raccoon sleeping on the bed with her. So it was getting to the point.
Good kitty.
It was pretty bad. Oh my God. So it got pretty bad. So they finally brought in help for her, and they were taking care of her a little bit, and then she started getting really sick at the end of her life. and her niece came and took her into hospice, and like a few days later she passed away.
Mm.
So she really pretty much was taken right out of here and passed away right away. She's heard and felt in here quite a bit, in this room as well. Going back to the Roots, that Melissa Root, Curtis Root, the main couple, they're heard a lot. Curtis is heard a lot upstairs. We hear him talking. They hear arguing a lot, lots of audibles. Not just EVPs, you hear her talking.
Mm.
And Melissa, you hear her a lot in the stairwell behind you. So she walks on the stairs and she sort of walks in that whole hallway area. Because that would have been the main entrance back at the day.
Right.
So then going into with Mina being here and her passing away in 2000, the farm next door are dairy farmers. These guys are dairy farmers. They all knew each other. They ended up buying the farm from them. They just wanted the farmland, though. They didn't want the house.
Yeah.
Because at that point, the house was in really bad shape. It was falling down. It had all kinds of issues. They didn't want to deal with it because nothing was updated. Nothing. Like it was original to 1830s, so they were only here. They had it for about a year. And that's when the owners previous to us ended up buying the property. She worked for the government as well, which is weird. Everyone who worked here or lived here were all, they were all psychics. They all had something to do with politics, and they all sort of were following the same sort of patterns. It was
Interesting.
sort of odd.
Some sort of weird connection.
Right. All this weird spiritualist community up here in Gasport too. Lots of psychics lived in this area too. So she ended up, she was living about 10 minutes drive from here, was driving out in the country one day, saw this house and was like, I have to go look at that, because she was an antique dealer as well. So she came over, pulled in the driveway, started looking in the windows, and it looked like this in here. Like, all this is original.
Yeah.
The woodwork's never been redone, nothing, and which is really crazy that this house still is intact as it is. And she told her husband, we need that house. We need to buy that house. So found out who owned it, and about a year later she ended up buying it. So she came in and did all the stuff you don't see in the house. She all new electric, all new plumbing, all new roof. Like, she saved it. She really, really did. It was in such bad shape.
Yeah.
And she did so much work on it. She really did put it back together. But then she was here about 14 years. They were having all kinds of issues with the house because they were taking all the original wallpaper down. They were ripping up the floorboards. They were running plumbing, and people were getting attacked and scratched and pushed down the stairs. And the work crews, they couldn't keep working here because they were getting in. And well, it was dangerous. Tools would go missing. They would have things thrown at them. Like, it was crazy. And they were getting all spooked out because they were hearing voices, and weird writing was showing up on the floors upstairs in the room. So she has pictures that she sent to me, which is crazy. One was a Bible verse. And the workmen even accused her of letting the kids upstairs to play in the work, because they had the whole top floor sort of like you couldn't go up. There was a work zone, so they had it like blocked off basically. And her kids at the time were really little. They were only like 3 and 4 years old, so they weren't writing cursive on the floor
exactly.
so lots of weird stuff was going on. And it got so bad she had to have about 4 exorcisms done. She was bringing all these reverends in from this psychic community called Lilydale. She was having these psychics come in, do all these blessings, try and do this whole thing here in the house, trying to calm the energy down. And it just wasn't working. Every time she'd do these ceremonies that they'd try and do an exorcism, it would just amplify it. It would just get worse.
Yeah.
She kept seeing this shadow man. She was pushed down the stairs a bunch of times. She said she had multiple miscarriages. She said she kept getting pregnant here, and then this shadow man would like hold her down, and she'd have these miscarriages. Like, it was awful. Like, she was being attacked, and all this craziness was going on. She was doing some strange things, though. She definitely saved the house, like I said, but she was also removing a lot of original things, as far as like the original carpets that were on the floor here were all Victorian, but they were full of bugs and nasty. Wallpaper was all original, but she took it all down, so I don't think they understood, what was going on. They were watching her just sort of destroying everything. So she was definitely getting attacked. She did dig up one of the tombstones that was outside, though, and bring it in here as a decoration. So the whole time she lived here, it was in front of the fireplace. And it said Our Ben on it. And she thought it was a racehorse grave, but it ended up being one of the smaller children of the Root family, probably 3 or 4-year-old boy. And her son said he used to see a little boy in the closet in his room upstairs, which we call the kids' room.
Right.
He would come out of the closet at night, sit on the end of his bed, wake him up, want to play, wouldn't leave him alone, always wanted to like talk and all that. And that's what I know you were getting that before, with the kids room with the door opening. They don't like when the door's closed. Lots of weird stuff up on in that whole end of the hallway anyway. But I'll take you up there. I'll sort of explain more about those rooms and everything. But just for the basic gist, I mean, that's how that all sort of went. She was here until the previous owner took me until about 2014. Then the house went into foreclosure. About 3.5 years, the bank owned it. And they were doing some stupid stuff, like they were painting everything white and, you know, the walls and stuff. You know, they're trying to make it all bland. And then they couldn't sell it. The house wouldn't sell. There were a bunch of tombstones, though, on the what we call the kitchen side of the house. When you pulled in the driveway, there's about 15 graves there with markers. And we ended up running into the previous family's kids. They came and stayed with us for a weekend and told us all about the stuff they found in the house when they lived here. Different things they experienced, too. It was great to talk to them. And it was really cool to compare notes, because they had the same stuff happen to them that's happening to us. Same kinds of noises, same kinds of like smells that you smell, and the doors opening, closing, all kinds of weird stuff. So yeah, there were about she said it was about 15 or 16 graves that were over there, all in the grass. And she warned us not to hit them with the riding lawnmower because we'd break the blades. And so did the man who owns the cornfields around us, the farmland. He warned us as well, because he owned the land for about 2 years. He had to mow the lawn, and he always said he would never mow over there because there's a whole bunch of tombstones over there. And we never saw these tombstones. So we think the bank ditched them. We think they dug them up and hid them, or dug a hole and threw them in, or we don't know what happened. They're gone.
I guess
they're not
they
over
probably
there.
thought nobody wants to live in a house with tombstones directly next to it, right?
Well, the thing is, you'd pull into the driveway on the kitchen side, and you were looking
literally the
at
first thing you'd see. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like if you were ever sitting outside having a picnic or something, they were right there. So it's pretty.
They're
bad.
like, no thanks.
Well, some people, I would have thought that was cool, but
I would have thought that was cool too.
Were freaked out for sure.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
It was buried here.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and I kept asking them. I'm like, do you remember any of the names that were on these tombstones? Like, who do you think, who was here? Because they had a lot of Irish indentured servants here. They had a lot of people who worked for them here.
Yeah.
Who were not just family. Like,
and at that time, if they had died on the property, they would have just been buried here.
Absolutely.
They had nowhere else to go, right? No family, nothing. If they were.
Absolutely. Especially those people,
Yeah.
because they were sent over here. They were coming in from Europe or whatever, and they weren't going to ship them back. If
Yeah,
they passed
exactly.
away, that's pretty much where they stayed, and they weren't going to pay to have big plots made for them or anything. So they were definitely stuck. And our Ben grave was under the one tree out there. We had bird feeders hanging, and the weird thing is those bird feeders just spin by themselves. Like, we have a lot of footage of it. I've never seen anything like it. There's be no wind, and they'll just rotate. And then you put EMF meters under there, run pods, they'll ask EVPs, ask questions, and you get all kinds of stuff that lights up. You'll get answers, you'll get all kinds of responses under there. People have been touched and stuff over there. So it's sort of a weird area. Like, it shouldn't be moving at all. I have no idea why it moves. So they definitely can manipulate things. And then going back further, like doing the research on the property and the land, we were told that the back fields of the house here have burial mounds in them. So Native American history as well. On the Iroquois. And there was a huge thing that came through, a big battle that came through here called the Scorched Earth Campaign.
Okay.
During the French and Indian War, the War of 1812, that whole era, where they burned, the Americans burned all the Native American villages down and massacred everybody who was helping the British, coming up from the Genesee River Valley area on a diagonal right through Gasport up to Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
Up to the old Fort Niagara. So they were murdering everybody who was helping the British and burning them alive, killing them, burning all the crops down so they couldn't regrow them. It was called Scorched Earth Campaign. General Sullivan was the one who ran it. And then in retaliation, the British did the same. They came and killed everybody who was helping the Americans, all the Native Americans, because they were split at the time. People were picking sides. Massacred everybody, going up to Old Fort Niagara, chased them all up to the fort, Old Fort Niagara. The ones that made it on foot were running. This is winter, too. It was snowy. They got to the fort, said, hey, these people are trying to kill us. At the fort, they said, sorry, we don't have any room. We can't let you in. And they all froze to death. So it was this massacre that happened. Ground zero is like this whole area right here.
Yeah.
So that's probably why this whole area is so active.
Yeah.
This whole Niagara region is just crazy. And, there were just tons and tons of people who lived here. The Native Americans, they had all the huge settlements here. And they find stuff all the time here. People who grew up in this our neighbors here, when they grew up in this area, they said that they would wait till the farmers would plow their fields under, like at harvest time, and they wait for the first rain, and then you would see all the arrowheads.
Oh, okay.
They'd be all over the surface of the ground because the flint is like a gray color, and they'd be shiny.
Mm.
And they would pick up artifacts like little pipes and all kinds of stuff because it was just constantly churned up because this was a huge settlement here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so quite a bit of Native American stuff. Lots of shadow people outside. You feel like you're being followed. You hear voices. You get touched out there. People have caught just craziness. I have footage of it. They'll be filming with a light on like you're doing, and you see these big mists that go past your camera. And that's all back by the graves out there. Because we do have a little cemetery area that we did find.
Right.
You know, that we did uncover, so quite a bit with that too. So that brings us to us. We ended up buying it in 2017. We moved in. Had no idea that there was anything going on here. We just knew it was an older home until we moved in, and then we started experiencing things and hearing voices and things were being thrown at us, and we were hearing things.
Oh, wow.
We were getting touched. And well, the first thing we were doing was we were hearing sounded like furniture being dragged around. And we had people help us move in the day before. We thought that someone stayed over. We thought we had a big group of people here, like all the friends and relatives and stuff. And the next morning we're in here having coffee, like sitting here, and we're hearing boom, 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 boom running, you know. It sounded like dresser drawers. You know when you open a dresser drawer and it's empty, a dresser, and it goes through that.
Right.
It was like that. And we're like, what is that? And we're like looking up, going, what the hell? And we would go up there, nothing up there, because we thought maybe somebody slept here. Like maybe somebody that crashed and we didn't know they stayed, or
Yeah.
no. So all kinds of stuff. And then we finally got a hold of the previous owner to us, and that's when we started comparing notes, and it was really
And they
fascinating
kind of
to hear her
confirmed
take
that it
it.
was,
Same kinds of things. And that was about 6 months after we moved in there, and after 6 months of being here, we had already had friends who were psychics, had friends who were paranormal investigators.
Okay.
You know, and then they were sort of picking up at the same things we were picking up. We weren't telling them what we were getting or what we thought was going on. We just were like, hey, come over.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
And they were all like making a beeline for the exact same spots. Like, oh, there's a man over here. And I feel it was so crazy to watch people because people were all doing the same. They're all like looking behind them because you just feel like somebody's standing behind you.
Yeah.
Weird. So,
Definitely.
pretty cool.
Now you're a psychic as well, or?
Yes, I'm a psychic medium. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess there's your connect, but you're not a politician, though.
Not yet.
Not yet, but maybe. Maybe.
I'll rule the world. Oh, no. Yeah, no grand ideas.
Cool.
No, not yet. Did you guys want to check out outside before it gets really dark?
Sure.
Just because it's going to be dark in a minute?
Yeah, why not? Yes! Oh my god, you're so cute. You're so cute and you. Yeah.
Because once it gets dark, you can't see anything out here.
This guy, I have two really bright flashlights, so.
Oh, okay. Alright. So you get a lot of shadow people over here along the tree line.
Okay.
Walk along. People feel like, or they see like there's someone standing around their cars. It's super weird. So this is the tree where the urban tombstone was.
Okay.
Where that little boy was buried. He's right under this tree. That's why we have a little statue here for him. This is the feeder I was telling you about. That will just start spinning.
Yeah.
You can even draw attention to it. Like it's windy now, right?
Yeah, that's what
not moving.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, it's not even moving now, and it's pretty windy.
Can you make that spin for us? And you can ask, like, make it rotate.
Yeah.
Rock now.
Does it go like both ways? Does it only go one way? When it spins?
I'll show you. It spins. It's crazy. And there'll be days when there's like no wind, and that thing will be going like a propeller.
Just crazy.
It's super weird. And right now it's windy and it's not really moving.
Yeah.
So to debunk it, it is definitely very, very odd. But this is where all the graves were too, all in that area right there. It was all like here, and then this whole patch of grass all in this area, going over here towards the driveway. Okay, so that's what it does. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Whoa.
I don't know how you can see that, but the like branches aren't moving at all.
Yeah.
It's super weird.
It's weird.
We'll be just sitting out here, won't be doing anything, and then it'll just start spinning like crazy.
Yeah.
We'll be like, what the heck's going on? So.
Just that one or the other one too?
Nope, just that one.
So while that one's moving, that one just stays still like that.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. Doesn't move.
Weird.
And multiple times a year. here. It doesn't matter if it's spring or summer or winter. But it's just something interesting. So if you're out here doing any some questions, you'll get like a lot of weird stuff usually under this tree. And even with that, just remember now it's windy. It's not moving.
Yeah, I was pointing.
So
It
you guys can
just
like,
a
develop it,
smidge,
like,
just
okay,
enough.
it's not moving.
Yeah.
It's barely swinging.
Yeah,
It moved
like
just
normal.
enough when the wind came.
Yeah, like it would normally if
Yeah.
it was windy.
Right.
That's creepy.
That is
super
creepy.
It's when you're sitting there and all of a sudden it's going crazy. Just watch your head, you guys, for a little bit. And then there's like a little fire pit area over there. This area over here is where we kept getting a lot of shadow people in that center area. They'll stand behind that tree. We caught pictures. It almost looks like they're peeking out from behind the tree, the trunks of those trees there. And they'll look blacker than black. Like we have like a hand on the bark and like a head looking around.
Oh wow.
And this is where they're catching a lot of those mists I was talking about, like how you're filming now.
Right.
You would see them like go in front of your camera. And then this is the cemetery that we did uncover.
Oh, there's another one here. Oh wow.
Because this is all overgrown.
Yeah.
Like this stuff right here, and so the previous owner's daughter, when she came to stay with us, said, "Hey, there's more tombstones in here, but they're older." She said,
Right.
and we weren't sure if they're animals, people, what. You know, we can't really read. The writing, a couple are really faded. Generally, so don't know how far they go back. And so we started clearing this out because it looked like this stuff. It was just overgrown.
Yeah.
And we took about 10 trees out of here and took all kinds of ivy out. As we were pulling stuff out, these were like just standing in there. So we just sort of tried to save it. Yeah, I mean, she said there was more in here. We just never got a chance to get in there.
Right.
Really clean all that out. But going through this path, though, takes you into the barn area. And so that's into here. So this is the barn. You can see like the old walls.
Oh yeah.
Corners. Like that's an old melted plow in there.
Oh wow.
This is the old trough right here for the animals and everything. It's like 70 by 90 foot. You saw the picture, so big 2-story barns.
Right.
There are 2 twin barns, one right next to the other.
Yeah, how did they get destroyed? Just fell apart one day?
No, the people who own the farmland around the cornfields that are there, because they own the cornfields, like we own the rest of it. He didn't think it was safe for the previous owner's kids would play in here, and it was intact. We have pictures of it. It was actually all intact.
Yeah.
This is made out of what's Medina sandstone, is what it's called. It's what they build churches out of. It's literally made to withstand fire.
Yeah.
It's made so that when it burns down, you just rebuild on top of that foundation.
Right, makes sense.
He didn't think it was safe. He took a tractor, knocked that one down, came over here, started knocking this one down, and his dad came over and stopped him. Because there's no reason to knock it down.
Yeah.
You can't plant anything here. It would have been, you could have just put a roof on it and made it a garage or whatever. But yeah.
Oh well.
History, right?
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah. But it is pretty weird.
Yeah.
This area is sort of strange. It would have been very, very, very busy, very active. Going this way is where the racetrack was.
Oh, okay.
So you do hear men talking over here. It's very strange. There's nothing in here. See how it's just cornfield.
Just
and
corn.
you do hear like walking, rustling and stuff. It's pretty weird. You hear a lot of action and stuff going on in that corn. You hear chanting and drumming too. Native American, literally Native American. It sounds like drumming and chanting.
Right.
Quite a bit. Oh, they cut yells.
Oh.
Like
okay.
Native American sounds like chants or yells.
Yeah.
Like weird
Like
stuff
battle
there.
cries, maybe.
Battle cries.
Yeah.
Like they'll play YouTube, you know what I mean? Like certain chants and dances and stuff, and then you'll get like responses.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is the barn foundation in here. We'll go this way. It should be pretty nice. There is the blacksmith shop in there. It's pretty overgrown. I can sort of show you, but I don't know if we can even get in there. I had it mowed at one point. But this is the blacksmith shop. There's like a big metal tub in there. There's like pieces of metal. This is the old foundry. So the walls around, you can sort of see the stone around that you're standing in.
Yeah.
It goes all around the outside.
Cool.
But this has been weird. We caught a little boy talking over here. EVPs. You know, we asked if you could say your name, and he said, "I don't think so," like really loud.
Yeah.
So it's weird. They've caught quite a bit of stuff over here.
Yeah. Cool.
Because over in here, there's like a big Their metal like cooling tank and stuff is all in there still. Careful your foot. Yeah, there's some metal, big metal
I'm just
pieces and stuff.
stepping over it.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anybody ever slept on this hammock here overnight?
That's how you get ticks, bud.
Can if you want. Oh.
Is that where you're sleeping tonight?
No.
I was gonna say, you're just gonna sleep outside.
No, thanks.
We got 3 nice beds in there, but
Probably nice tonight. It doesn't seem that bad.
yeah.
Okay, so this is the basement. All the lights go on with this switch right here. Okay, so if you want dark down here, that's your switch. Okay, it's just easier to turn that off up here. You can shut everything off. Alright, so just watch your step coming down the stairs. A little steep.
I can see why that guy died.
You guys doing?
Yeah.
Come down this thing drunk.
I was gonna say.
boy.
Well, not just this one. I'll show you the other one. Because there's 2 staircases down here.
Oh wow.
So this is the one staircase.
Yeah.
And you know, when we moved in, this was all just a giant open basement.
Yeah.
There were no walls.
Mhm.
The lady before us, Ginger, had taken all the walls down because she wanted to put this new concrete floor in.
Right.
It was all just dirt floor down here
Right.
at the time. Which is great. She leveled it all, but it also brought the floor level up about a
Mhm.
foot because she put drainage and everything. It's just sort of interesting if you're getting like shadow people or like orbs. Sometimes they look like they're half on the ground because they should be like a foot lower. You know what I mean? So this whole thing. So we knew where the walls were because we could see the brick. So we rebuilt all the walls down here, put all the doors back up.
Right.
So they call this the portal area. I feel like people grab your feet through the stairs here. So people have, just be really careful on the stairs because people feel like they're gonna fall.
Right.
They've heard voices in here. We've had electricians working in here, been touched and all kinds of weird stuff in this area. But this is this other staircase that we opened up. So this is just sort of interesting because it's all original. Like the original paint from the 1830s is all on here, hinges and locks and everything. It just unlocks like that. It's just a slide lock. And this is like the original entrance into the basement from outside. These are the steps I was talking about, the stone steps.
Yeah.
So
So-
he would have been coming in and out of here a lot, probably,
Okay.
working down
So
here.
this is where he died?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
More in this area because the stone steps.
Right.
Like he would have come in here, and if you cracked your head, you'd be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing is, everything in here is original. We only cleared this out recently because it was
Yeah.
full of like just junk and ladders and all kinds of stuff. This is all stuff that's been found on the property in the barns out there. Also up here, these are for the horses, but all the original stuff. You know, these are all the original carriage steps that were found out by the blacksmith shop, made by the Newcomb family, who used to make carriages.
Oh,
They're all
okay.
like handmade carriage steps, which is
Yeah.
really sort of cool. Hi, Jim.
Edgewood Manor? What's that?
That was just a thing we used to do for years ago in my old house for a Halloween thing.
Yeah.
Which is funny we ended up buying this.
Yeah. So where did the name come from?
It's a
Greystone.
mix. Well, it's Scottish, Graestone.
You guys just came up with it?
We did because at first, well, technically in the registry for New York State, it's the Curtis and Melissa Root Home.
Okay.
But also, the Newcombs here were here for a long time, and so were the Kelkenberg. So I didn't want to just name it after the one family. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to sort of have have everybody's history told.
Right.
I didn't think it was fair to have it just be the one thing. So we just were calling it Graestone Manor.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good name anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, we could have done it that way, but you know. And these are all the original front doors because we have to rebuild that front porch. And these are the original front headers for the front door. These are all pieces that go back on. So when the porch is done, this all has to go back on. But it was all they followed the house. They saved it up. So we put it back on, which is great.
What's in here? Whoa. Come on in. It's like taking going back in time into like the 70s or something. Nice.
So, yeah, coming in through here. So going in through there, that's just the living room, back to the basement.
Wait,
Game room.
there's more. Oh, this is cool.
And then all the lights go on the switch right over here.
Mhm.
And then
Oh.
there's a switch over here. The switch up here is for the pool table.
That was fun.
Victorian
It's an antique.
wicker cooling.
Yeah, it's got the original
Oh, nice.
pads and stuff all in it,
Yeah.
which is super creepy. With all the original
Oh, yeah,
DNA
for real.
and all
Does this
that.
guy have a name?
The other one was Josh. We didn't
Chris?
really name him
Josh.
yet. Yeah. It's that ball in that corner there. That one right there.
Forceful too.
I'm here to hit those other balls in the pocket.
I saw them. I watched that in action.
Wild, right?
Right.
That's so crazy. They didn't panic either.
No. I guess we could try that out later on.
Yeah.
Right there, in the corner of the couch.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
So
That must have felt good.
his stomach lifts up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I tried to
that's,
slow down and pause it.
that's
It's-
not
It's
normal.
like his whole middle area lifts up
Yeah.
first.
So it's like somebody like scooped him, just like, get out of here.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, that little room where
It's okay.
where,
They always land
my
on their
husband
feet,
watches
right?
TV until he goes to bed, but it's that room, that one
Yeah.
little room there. Yeah, super weird. He's usually really mellow, like he doesn't just freak out.
Yeah.
People got some crazy stuff here. Yeah.
Cool. All right.